you skied for Jordan. You learned how to ski at over 30 and you went to the Olympics.
Yeah.
All right, let's do this officially. Well, first of all, thank you so much for doing this. I have been stalking you for quite a long time because I really believe that you would, I'm fascinated by your story.
My story is one of many thousands, as you know. So it's not particularly as horrific as others, because thank God my father was well educated. So he traveled the world and he got a job in Egypt as soon as we became refugees. It let me go back to where I started. I think that's what you probably know. You want to know, right?
I know you were born in Nazareth.
So my father was working at the Haifa College, or they used to call it Haifa College for Women. He was very, he was an English professor. He was an Oxford graduate by correspondence, by the way. And his sister at the time was sent to Columbia University in Cairo, and my uncle Ahmed was sent to another university in England. He got his doctorate, which he was a doctor, a physical doctor. So the family was pretty well off at the time, and we prospered well. And we had as soon as my mother came back with me from Nazareth, where she had met her father or her mother's home, which was owned at the time by Dahir al-Umar Zaydani, the same home that my great-grandfather Dahir al-Umar lived in. So the family took it over as the year went on. I was born in about 17 or 18 feet from where Jesus was conceived.
Oh my God.
So, So I was 9 days old, but my mother came back to Suffolk, where my home, and all my family members home, which means my uncle and my aunts and my grandmother, of course. And she was if you look at the map of Suffolk, 1947, 46, and goes back hundreds of years, you'll see the Hadid family and my great-grandfather's home of my mother's side, from my father's side. From my mother's side, my mother had me there, and she brought me back to Nazareth at the age of 9 days old with my sister Sana, who was at the time about a year and a half. My father was still working in Haifa because he was still teaching at the time. It was November, so they still had school. So he took my grandmother and two sisters with him. So we were three girls and me. So I was the youngest. And one of the most touching moments that I really ever had was just about a few weeks ago when I saw the exodus of some of the refugees out of Gaza going out with few pieces of clothing and they tried to leave the war zone. I literally cried for hours because I never knew that what happened to my family. My mother never saw her husband for over a year because my father went first to open up the house for us and back to, and when they arrived, his family that lived in our house that we brought in 1947 with some other people from Safa. They actually gave them refuge from the 1946 immigrants and from the Polish Jewish refugees. that came from Poland went to, I believe, to New York, they went to Cuba and back to, and they decided to come to Haifa. And some of the more fortunate people who have extra rooms or extra guest houses, they went down to the port, and they brought in several, if not hundreds, of refugees from the Haifa port. So that time I realized that I missed half of my life not knowing, or at least half of the pain at knowing what happened actually in 1948. 1948, my mother and my father never really told us these stories. They never told us anything about the exodus from the Palestinian territory. They never told us about anything because they did not want us to be pained and or make us hate. So we just moved on as if we didn't know it. Or I was 9 days old. My elder sister was 1.5 years old. And then how the young families at the time, they had several kids, and within 4 or 5 years they had 4 kids. So we eventually went to a refugee camp. Just met myself and my mother's hands. My little sister Sana was a year and a half, and I assume we went on a truck or a bus or walked over to the Syrian border, and we got to refugee camp, Syria, and we stayed there for a while because my father was on the other side, where when he came in a few days before us to open up the doors, did everything ready for us to come, our guests, refugees, the Jewish guests, locked my father out. So my father at the time, I think they put him on either walked vehicle or wherever it was. They took him to the Egyptian borders. So then I thought my uncle Ahmed, who was the doctor, he became a doctor for the UNICEF, and he found my father. I'm not sure who he found us first or my father first, but he united us together, and it was blurred. So it was never really exactly the timing of things, because they did not tell us any of these things until we were 16 or 14, because my parents never wanted us to wait. They just wanted us to move forward and never let us have or exercise or feel hate toward anyone. Just say, I think that was probably the best thing to do. My father came to the Syrian side of the conflict or the occupation at the time. By the way, it was never a conflict. It was always an occupation.
That's right.
We have never had conflict with Jews. We invited them in. Even Golda Meir can tell you she was a Palestinian. She lived with Palestinians. She would give her a passport, and we gave a lot of these people passports, and we invited them in. And they claim they got a passport through the British Empire, which is not true at all. Everything was done through the Palestinian Authority at the time, and we invited them in. We were kind to them, and they lived in our house for 2.5 years until I came home, and they blocked my mother and I out of coming into my home, and then we became refugees that day, 9 days old. So the journey starts there.
Yeah. But when you were 14 years old, your father or your family moved to the U.S.
Yeah. Well, what happened is my father went to Damascus. He got a job right away. This is the other tragedy. It's most of the Palestinian population, as small as it was very, very, very well educated, uh, very well educated country. And there's my aunt, Khairiah, God bless her soul. She went to Colombia in 1946.
Amazing.
Well, so she was in Colombia already, Columbia University in New York, Columbia, and also I believe she went to another Ivy League school there. And she had, at the age of 16, her mother sent her at the age of 16 her first degree at the age of 20. And then she had her master's at the age of 22.
Wow.
By that time, it was 1951. She never saw Palestine again. She came to Damascus. She went back to my father, got a job immediately. As soon as he got to Syria, he got a job at the University of Damascus for English as an English professor. My father spoke three languages. She was a man of letters. He was an educator. Spoke three languages. He translated in both English and Arabic. He started back in 1951. He was the main translator for Prince Faisal and the United Nations. So, at the time, or at least two, I'm not sure. But so you can see that most of the educated guys were sucked in by the Arab world, or European world, or American world. There was a lot of need at the time for translators, for writers, for educators, for so my father got a job at the Voice of America. They took him out of education sector, and they brought him in to open up the first Voice of America in Beirut, Lebanon. Now in Beirut, Lebanon, they opened up, stayed there for I believe 3 years, and they asked him to move to Beirut. He opened up the second Voice of America, with the head of Voice of America there. So, the thing was that more propaganda, in my opinion. There always been propaganda radio station, but they bring in music, American music, and and news from the West to counter the East, I think. So then they asked him to move to Tunis. At the time, I was probably 9 years old. And my mother sent me back to. It was a science education in Tunis. My mother was aware that I was supposed by Arabic. My aunt also was there from Palestine. His husband was from Safed as well. And she ended up in a little town next to Halab, Aleppo, which is Idlib. Idlib was a very small village just on the outskirts of Halab and just below it. So I leave my mother at the age of 10, and she gave me a little suitcase and a piece of paper to travel from Tunis by myself on a new airline that they just started, which is the United Arab Airline, when Jamal Nasser and I believe it was President Hadid or President Anwar was a Syrian president. The community wanted to become one country. So they decided they want to create the first airline, American airline.
Wow.
And their mission was to bring to fly people from North Africa all the way to Beirut,
To the Middle East.
to the Middle East.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beirut, Egypt, and into Damascus. So I was on that flight, which I was by myself on that flight, which was the first flight ever, a plane flight. I was alone with about four stewardesses and a test. And my mother gave me a thermos, which is like a basket. It's a aluminum basket where you put different kind of food on top of each other to stay some like coal and cotton. So my mother was put me on there, and I couldn't believe I was leaving by myself and with a small suitcase.
And you were 10 you were 10 years old.
I was 10 years old, and I asked her mom. My mother at the time, we had already 8 kids. I said, in a joking way, how did you send it? Or then boss said, well, you have 8 more, 7 more. So it was very exciting, a lot of very sensitive. My parents were very, it's unusual parents. They never installed hate in us. They never told us about our excellence. They never really brought, and they never brought up about how we got things down. They never brought up to for us to hate or be angry at anyone or anything. Just move forward. We didn't even say anything about moving forward. We just live our life.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about, I said, Mom, why did you go see your parents? We can't go back because there's no right to return, especially in Nazareth. My mother was never able to go back. Never saw her parents. After she left Nazareth, her parents and her brothers and her family were in Nazareth, and they couldn't come out. And the time they had a curfew on all the people in Nazareth. If you leave, you don't come back. You can't even leave the city, never less the country.
Amazing.
So most of them were pretty much in the house arrest for 17 years. The only time I recall, and I was literally crying because I think at one time they had to call it a visitation. A visitation where you come from Damascus, I'm not sure which, I don't recall exactly. There was a bridge, and you go over the bridge, but I was not allowed to go. I was too young. So I stayed on the side of the bridge, and I was waiting for my mother to go just to see her brothers and mother for about less than 5 minutes. And that was when I was 9 years old.
Mm.
That was the only time my mother and father saw their family.
Amazing.
Father. But father didn't have a family. Most of them left because, as you know, father was taken over.
Yeah.
After our departure was taken over within 7 days. Either you die or you leave. 70,000, I believe, I can't call how many people were in. And some of us completely taken over by the Jewish population. Either you leave or you die.
Mm-hmm.
So it's up to you. So they give you a choice. But a lot of people, they had a choice because they wanted to stay, and they did die.
Yeah.
And there were massacres all over. My father never told us these things until we were 16 or 17 years old, that there was massacres everywhere around the houses. Just to show, just to show that these things can happen if you don't leave your house.
Mm-hmm.
And our guests who stayed with us for 2.5 years, we brought them in 1946, stayed with us, fed them, gave them money, enjoyed life, used our facilities. We welcomed them with open arms. And I think that's what my father always held so close to his heart and to his soul, that he didn't want to tell us, or he did not want us to hate.
Yeah.
He kept it inside. And at that time when I asked my father, I don't know what he told him, in 16 or 17 years old, what? You should have done it, Dad. Would you do it again now? And he said, yes, I would.
That's very wise father you had. Very intelligent.
He used to say to us, my mother and my father, he used to always preach to us. If you see a family in need, you take care of them. You don't ask them what they're living you are.
That is very valuable.
Never ask what religion. Just help them.
Yeah, if you can. Yeah. Do you remember how you felt when you arrived in the U.S.?
Well, when I arrived in the U.S., I was 15 years old, I believe. We left Tunis. I came back from Syria. My mother came pick me up. We went to Egypt. I always wanted to see Egypt. I said, Mom, before we leave the country, I know I was leaving to America. I said, I want to see Egypt. I've always fascinated by big buildings, big structure, outrageous and magnificent history. I said, I want to go to Egypt before I go to Tunis. So we flew into Egypt, and my mother had some family in Egypt. Whatever. We didn't get a horse or camels, not so on. We were on pyramids. Now, I'm so sure, I still think for about 6 hours. I think that's when I opened my eyes for magnificent structures that I always wanted to build. Magnificent structures. And that's pretty much where I had my vision forward of what I want to be, what I want to do. It was
it's fascinating
and fascinating. Yeah, but at the age of 14, I didn't see much. I mean, really, Tunis was more like a French town. It was well manicured. There was a French colony at one time and so on. And I haven't been there yet. So I was on my way from Syria to Egypt to Tunis. The only thing I wanted to experience is the magnificence of an Arabic country, or a country with that history that went back thousands and thousands of years. So that was my first travel experience to Egypt, to see that. So then we went to Tunis, and we all got ready to go. And my father, at the time, by the way, I don't know if you probably heard before, we didn't have a passport. Yeah, I never went to Jordan, but my father was playing backgammon one time when I was 7 years old. He was playing backgammon with the ambassador of Jordan in Tunis. His name is Khairiah, which is a very, very hard name to remember. I remember when I was giving I was keynote speaker at Harvard, they asked me, and I remember that name so clearly. I was very young at the time. I was just watching my father play the ambassador of Tunis, ambassador of Jordan in Tunis. And he was actually used to be he was on the same level as the Secretary of State, but he took a job as an ambassador. Tunis was it was one of these countries that are most ambassadors wants to be in Tunis, but it was like mini Paris.
Yeah.
It was. The meetings were very nice to us. But before the influx of the other Palestinians who came later on, we were just first Palestinians, and my father hired 2 Palestinians to work with him in North America as translators. And so they were paying back then, and they picture games, and they said they were talking about if you win, always win what. So the ambassador said, if I win, I want my mother, Mohamed, to put us a great Palestinian dish for the family in us. And my father and he said, if you win, all of you come to the embassy tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. That'll be your best.
Is that how you got Jordanian citizenship?
Yeah, that's how it is. Story.
Wow.
Like the Jordan, and the ambassador actually that he has passports, all the family, 8 kids, father, mother, and my grandma.
Wow. Because I also know, that's a bit late, that's a funny story. You skied for Jordan. You learned how to ski at over 30 and you went to the Olympics.
Yeah. I did that. And that's why I used it. Jordanian passport because I was Jordanian as well. I mean, well, it's a story that will never end. I mean, there's so many things went in and out of there that it would take a book to speak about.
Definitely.
So it's So anyway, we ended up. So we became Jordanians. And also, the U.S. gave us green cards, or I believe they gave us, because my father was a high, because it was for the North America, it's under the USIA, which is a United States Mission Agency. So it's you have to be a vetted. Probably they gave. I don't recall now. I think they gave us passports, not just green cards.
Yeah.
So we arrived to 1960. We arrived to U.S. 1964, and I just speak a word. Even though my father was literally a professor and a scholar in the English language, he never taught his kids English because he was barely feeding them. So I don't think he had to sit down with us and say, here, it's English. He barely he was working 3-4 jobs at the same time. He was working in North America, he was fighting, he was translating, he was writing pieces. He was very active because he was trying to have more than just what the U.S. government can pay. So as you want to send his kids, he sent my sister Hada, I believe in 1966 or 67, we sent we turned 64 to 19. About 3 years before we left Tunis, he sent her to Miami University.
Oh, wow.
To study.
Yeah.
At first, she thought she was going to Miami University in Florida, but ended up at Miami University, Ohio. She took with her took with her swimsuit.
No swimming in Ohio. Oh, that's funny.
So, yeah. Anyway, so this is that's how we got into Washington, D.C. My father, first day he got there, he went right to the Voice of America, started working. And of course, he was also a correspondent to about 5 or 6 or 7 newspapers around the world, in English, Arabic, and so on. He was translated books, papers, and so on. So he was busy, probably 14 hours a day.
Wow.
Barely ever. My father, I don't recall he's ever taken one single vacation. Never.
It wasn't done at the time. There was too many mouths to feed.
Many mouths to feed. And he was a very accomplished man. He knew how to, the minute I arrived there, I wanted just to get a job because I thought American way is to get a job. And I was able to achieve it because I was very driven. And my sisters were very driven as well. They all got jobs and they all went to school. And I had no idea how my father, I don't even know how he was able to put at least 1 or 2 of the sisters in school with the money that he was making. We got scholarships. I got a scholarship from my life in colleges was so crazy. I could only write a book about it. But I thought everybody, the thing about it when you are a refugee and you don't know I thought I lived a good life at the time. I didn't know I was a second-class citizen. I didn't know who was rich and who was poor. I didn't know we weren't. And my father got a house in Ellington, Virginia, which is close to Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was normal. There was all the people around like all Americans. They have small houses, and then we put all these kids in. Maybe 2 bedroom, 2 bed, and then or 3 whatever. But that never bothered. I always thought we are special. We had also where we are. We had a good life. My parents never allowed us to think that we are
worthless than other people.
Yeah, we didn't experience from rich to poor. We did because we were, in my opinion, we were very, very, very lucky and very wealthy in knowledge and wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what actually my parents installed in us. It's money does not make you wealthy. Big house doesn't make you wealthy. All these things they're valueless because you can go up there and come back exactly where you are here at one time. So you can start here and go back on the floor. But it's strange. My journey has gone from normal boy to, thank God I got educated pretty well on my own. I went to colleges from when I was giving a lecture or a keynote speaker at Harvard. I said, this is the first time I came to a school from the front door because I never did. I've always gone from the back door. I tried to figure out a way to get into schools without having my father pay for it because he couldn't afford to pay for my schooling. And at the same time, I didn't have the grades for it because English was not my first language. At the time, they did not have English as a second language you have to learn English. And how can you learn English when you come to 10th grade, university, or at high school, and they give you actually 1 week a pop quiz, which you don't even know how to read it and or understand it. So it was a very that's one of my probably my down time where I was really upset with myself, where I excelled in schools and all because I was number one in mathematics in Northern area. I was mathematics, art, anything you do, I was literally number one. And the top 1% of the population. But when I came to America, I was at the bottom, and the only thing I had in is math. It was the same, algebra, math, art, woodworking, these kind of things where
the language is not important.
But the language was not important.
Yeah.
And it's completely ignored. I ignored the tongue because I went to my father. And my father said to me at the time, he said, you concentrate on the things you know, not the things you don't know. Because once he was a philosopher, and he was a psychologist, philosopher. He taught us that how to maneuver through life.
Yeah, I think that's very, very important. And I think, just hearing what you say about your father, he must have been a fascinating man.
But very humble man. You don't see him as a guy that's sitting behind a desk giving orders. He doesn't even have time for that. But everything's in a passing. Like he sees me down. I say, I got an E, incomplete in English. He said, don't, just leave it alone. Get E's as much as you want. You will learn English on your own as you live here. The others stay focused on the ones you know best. English, not English, but science.
Yeah.
Algebra.
Yeah.
Art, design, woodworking, whatever it is that you love, that's where you put your energy in. You take your energy out of there, put somewhere else, and you lose the other ones. It was tremendous. It was hinting rather than ordering. It was hinting to me what's important for me to move on with my life is to be a scientist. I can be a mathematician. I can be an architect. I can. None of that needs math. English.
Yeah. Well, the rest is history because you've done really, really well for yourself, even though you didn't speak enough English at the beginning, right?
Well, I didn't. I still don't. My problem is I spoke 4 languages at the same time at one time. I mastered none. I spoke English. I spoke French, Arabic, Greek, Maltese, and started speaking English. And I never mastered any of them.
It doesn't matter. You can communicate in all of them.
I get it, but yes, but it's hard.
Listen,
it's hard.
I want to ask you something because I was studying a little bit. I was studying you a little bit yesterday, and I read something very fascinating. Did you have anything to do with the opening of Aquarius Disco in Rhodes?
Yes, I did. I was the founder. See what happened? My father was transferred to Rhodes
Uh-huh.
in 1970 or something. He was transferred to Rhodes to head the new Bush America station in Rhodes. So at the time, they were calling for here in the US, were calling for all the people who would number. My number was 69,
Uh-huh.
and go to the military for Vietnam. I had a little injury on my toes. I went to the to the station in Richmond. They asked me to come with my bag so I can go to Vietnam. And they said, okay, take all your clothes off. And, and they saw there was an injury on my toe, on the right toes from something that happened. I was very, very young, which is my mother was sitting next to a fireplace and one of the pieces of fire jumped up and landed on my toe.
Yeah.
So, and this thing, once in a while, it flares.
Uh-huh.
If I wear boots or anything. I went there to actually, I think when I graduated from college, they asked me to come, so I came. And I went to Richmond. They said, well, I'm sorry, we can't take you right now. You have to do the civilian test.
Uh-huh.
Because you can't help you can't help your cause in the military because we don't do that. I said, okay, so I'll go. I went to the doctor and he said, I will do surgery on you. I'll take a piece of meat from your back, from your behind, and I will add it to your toe so it will not be affected anymore. I said, okay. So he put it in for November 6th, I believe. That was my birthday. And November 6th, it was a hospital. They set up the whole thing, the hospital. Those aren't an emergency. And I went back and they said, okay, come back to us afterwards. But by that time, the year was up. But I was afraid that there was a month or two in between. Yeah, I'm going to go on vacation. I'm going to go in my parents in Greece, afterwards. So I got on a plane from Washington, D.C. to London. From London, there was a flight from London to Athens, and then you take this little plane to Rhodes, where my father is at the time. And he lived on have you been to Rhodes?
I worked there and I used to go to Aquarius Disco.
Are you kidding me?
No, I worked there in 1980. I was a very young tour guide.
Okay, so you'll understand.
Yes.
So I was on the plane flying to Rhodes, and there's two guys next to me. One guy, his name is Michael Deeks. On the other side, a guy named Vasilis Radikos. And I'm walking down the hill. As you know, it's that's the road that goes to Acropolis.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything on the right side is the sea. And the sea and the wind comes from Turkey toward Rhodes. And somebody opens up a door. It's a big pink building, pinkish orange building. Big door opens up, and I smell this magnificent, most beautiful smell, which is a combination of, jasmine.
Yes.
Jasmine and citrus things. And it was like magical. I saw. When the guy closed the door, I knocked back on the door, and the guy opened the door. He said, hello, my name is, I forgot the guy's name.
Okay.
Michael Michael Dix. Michael Dix. No, Michael, I'm sorry, not Michael Dix. His name is Michael Montiadis. I am General Michael Montiadis. I said, General, or maybe a different name, I'm not sure, but this
it doesn't matter.
Yeah. He said, I just retired. Just came here. I want to live a beautiful life. Look at my, can I see your garden? Now, I wasn't looking at the garden, really. I was looking at where I can put seeds and disco and bowls. And, yeah. I mean, the views are amazing over,
I remember.
Overlooking the city. And he had a gorgeous gardens. And they go into levels. And he said, I said, you want some coffee? I didn't even drink coffee. I was 30 years old. I said, sure, I have coffee. So he made the coffee, and the coffee I never drank. So sitting there, and we're sitting and talking. And he said, "This is what are you doing now?" I said, "I just retired up here." I said, "Where's?" He said, "I'm also a widower. My wife just passed away." I said, "Yeah, I'm lonely. You must be lonely." He said, "Yes, I'm very lonely." So I was trying to figure out how I can get to him, to his heart, to give me his heart, or let
you use it.
So I asked my father, how much do they pay for the house across the street, which is bigger, nicer, but it's not directly on the water, not directly overlooking the water. You can see it from Singapore, but not the floor, because it's across the street.
Yeah.
So you have, So he said the embassy, because they have an American flag up front, because it was a USIA, so it's under the State Department division. The USIA is part of the State Department. So he said, "Who are you?" I said, "My name is Hadid. I live right across the street from you." He said, "Oh, you're the American." I said, "Kind of, yeah, I'm the American." Yeah, but I just didn't want to, get into the small talk. I wanted to get right to that. I said, "Yeah, I want to give you." So I asked my father. He said, "Talk to so and so. He'll tell you how much we pay." But my father is that's not his. He doesn't know anything about that stuff. Therefore, I found out that they paid $200 for me at that time. He was paying for that big house, $250 a month rent. So I thought maybe maximum, this house is worth $100 a month. So I said to the guy, I want to rent your house. He said, "No, I'm not leaving this house. It's my house." I said, "I want to pay you $2,000 a month." And he stopped there. He looked at me. I said, "The other thing I want to do, now that you showed me the house, you see that part of the house where you live, that nobody would ever come there. I'm like, during the day, your house will be exactly the way it is now, the way it is. But I'm going to use it at night, of this number, that number." And there was a door, there was the stairs, and it sits on a corner. I said, "You sit over there in a bigger chair. And from now on, you don't have to stay alone. People will be coming. You are going to be the boss. You're not the boss, but you are going to be the boss. Everybody's going to come in and see you and meet you, and you're going to have fun, and you're going to forget about all the sad and remember the good things you did with your wife and that." I don't know, just talking nonsense. He said, "My $2,000 a month, that's like his whole he gets like $300 a month from the his benefits, whatever they call it, from the as general in the military. He gets like $300 a month. So $2,000 a month, he can live a life of a king there. But I only had $17,000 to work with to open up a club. But it didn't matter. I just wanted to action first.
Yeah, yeah.
When he shook my hand, he said, "Oh my God, what have I done?" And the history tells you that I did open up.
I know, because I've been there. I have been there, Mohamed. That's amazing. I couldn't believe it when I read that because, I've been reading a lot about you and I know what you do, but it never occurred to me that this could actually have been you.
So what happened is I probably made the most amazing amount of money in 4 summers. Only 4 summers.
I can imagine, because I know how full it used to be.
Well, we created this thing where girls can come in for free. Men have to pay a charge, $1. I think it was $1 charge, which never happened anywhere in the world. And maybe in New York or something, they used to charge people. I don't even remember. I don't even drink. I don't even know what drinking is. I don't even know what people drink. At the time when the people opened, we ran out of money. We had to go. I went into the old city. I see a guy jumping out of and I was very upset because I want to open up that night. I want to open up that night, and I had no money. I could ask my father. My father never knew that I was there for 3-4 years. My father, my mother, my sisters, my brother, no one knew that I owned the club consciously directly.
Amazing.
No one.
Crazy.
No one. Because my father would have, after I went to school, I went to all these places, and I had my life. And older, he would look down on me.
He wouldn't have approved.
No, well, I'm not saying that my father was not like that. My father was great. My father and my mother were probably one of the most liberal people in the world. Wow. Liberal. I mean, we done whatever we want. My sisters did whatever they want.
Yeah.
We never had a hijab. My sisters, they never cared about any of that stuff. We were very modern. Our society in Nazareth and Suffolk, they were modern people.
Yeah.
My aunt went to Columbia University. She was a normal girl. I mean, my mother, if you see her when she got married, she's modern. My father looks like a professor, looks like a Oxford professor with small glasses. We were very modern people.
Amazing.
My father never asked me anything. He was too busy.
Yeah.
Making a living for his kids.
Yeah.
And make sure that his mother, and of course he passed away in Rhodes actually. And my great grandfather's brother ruled Rhodes at one time, and he built the mosque and in the old city.
Oh, I see.
And we built and there was a cemetery there. And my grandmother, God bless her soul, is still in Rhodes, and she was buried there.
Oh.
In the Muslim quarters. Yeah.
Listen,
anyway.
Mohamed, this is because normally my episodes are only about 40 minutes. We are into an hour and 10, and I could talk to you forever. I think we need to do a next episode. I think we will leave it at today. And I really, really enjoyed this. I want to thank you so much for talking to me.
A pleasure.
If you enjoy my podcast, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. You will find all the information in the show notes.